Title: The Great Cosmic Journey of Jack the Jackass and Carl the Camel. Chapter 1: The Wacky Proposition. In the small town of Bumblescratch, where the grass was always greener and the cows actually mooed in key, lived a jackass named Jack. This town was known for its peculiar charm and quirky inhabitants, but Jack stood out even among them. Jack wasn't your ordinary jackass. He had a spark in his eyes that hinted at dreams far grander than the simple life of a farm animal. No, he had dreams that soared far beyond the fields and fences of his farm life. He often imagined himself exploring the vast unknown, discovering new worlds and meeting strange creatures. While other animals were content munching on hay or racing each other to the water trough, Jack spent his nights gazing up at the stars and wondering what was out there. He felt a deep connection to the cosmos, as if he were meant for something greater. His best friend, Carl the Camel, spent his days daydreaming about adventure too, but mostly about dessert, specifically the perfect camel cake. Carl had a sweet tooth that was legendary in Bumblescratch, and he often fantasized about creating the ultimate confection. One bright sunny day, as Jack munched on his hay, a brilliant idea struck him like a meteor hitting the earth. It was as if the universe itself had whispered a secret into his ear. "Carl!" he brayed, startling a nearby hen off her perch. The hen squawked indignantly, but Jack was too excited to notice. "What is it, Jack?" Carl plodded over, a bit drowsy but intrigued. He had been napping in the shade, dreaming of a cake made entirely of marshmallows. "I have a plan," Jack exclaimed, his eyes shining with excitement. "A plan to travel to Uranus." He could barely contain his enthusiasm as he shared his vision. "Uranus?" Carl spat, somewhat offended. "Why would we want to go there? I'm quite fond of my behind, thank you very much." He gave Jack a skeptical look, wondering if his friend had finally lost it. "No, you silly camel," Jack chuckled. "I'm talking about the planet! Venus is overhyped with all its clouds and beauty, but Uranus, now that's where the real fun is. Venus is overhyped with all its clouds and beauty, but Uranus, now that's where the real fun is. It's got a funny name, it's mostly gas. And just think of the adventures we could have. Now that's where the real fun is. It's got a funny name, it's mostly gas. And just think of the adventures we could have. Imagine the stories we could tell, the sights we could see, and the mysteries we could uncover. It's got a funny name, it's mostly gas, and just think of the adventures we could have." Carl's eyes sparkled with excitement. "You mean there's no chance of running into little camels or jackasses trying to steal our food? Count me in. Plus, imagine the desserts we could cook up, from space muffins to galaxy cakes." Carl's eyes sparkled with excitement. "You mean there's no chance of running into little camels or jackasses trying to steal our food? Count me in. Plus, imagine the desserts we could cook up, from space muffins to galaxy cakes." The thought of creating interstellar desserts filled Carl with a sense of purpose. Plus, imagine the desserts we could cook up, from space muffins to galaxy cakes. Carl's mind raced with possibilities. He envisioned a bakery on Uranus, where they could serve cosmic treats to alien customers. With their minds made up, the duo set off on their whimsical adventure, armed only with a backpack filled with snacks, a telescope, and an unhealthy amount of enthusiasm. They knew the journey would be challenging, but their excitement outweighed any fears. Chapter 2: The Intergalactic Transport. Of course, the road to Uranus wasn't as smooth as their expertly crafted plans had suggested. They encountered numerous obstacles and setbacks, but their determination never wavered. They realized that they needed a vehicle to travel the vast expanse of space. After much debate and brainstorming, they decided to build a rocket ship. It was a daunting task, but they were undeterred. After careful consideration and some very whimsical brainstorming, they decided to build a rocket ship. They gathered materials from around the farm, using whatever they could find to construct their vessel. "You've got the engineering skills, right?" Jack asked. He had faith in Carl's abilities, even if they were untested. "Of course, how hard could it be?" replied Carl confidently, not having built anything more complex than a sandcastle in the last 12 years. He was determined to prove himself, even if it meant learning on the fly. After several disastrous attempts that included an exploded balloon and a rather unfortunate incident involving a blender, they finally assembled a somewhat functioning, if not entirely conventional, rocket ship, which they affectionately named the Space Camel. It was a patchwork of parts, but it was their creation, and they were proud of it. Jack climbed into the cockpit. "How do you even fly this thing?" he asked, fiddling with the colourful buttons that sparkled like disco lights. He felt a mix of excitement and trepidation as he prepared for takeoff. Carl was busy adjusting the snacks in the back, oblivious to the technical difficulties. "I'm sure it's just like riding a bicycle. Just press a button and make it go vroom, vroom." He had complete confidence in their creation. Even if it was a bit unconventional, just press a button and make it go vroom, vroom. So Jack pressed a big red button labeled Go. And, surprisingly, the rocket roared to life, leaving behind a cloud of dust and the confused chickens of Bumblescratch. The ground shook as the rocket lifted off and they were on their way. So Jack pressed a big red button labeled Go, and surprisingly, the rocket roared to life, leaving behind a cloud of dust and the confused chickens of Bumblescratch. The ground shook as the rocket lifted off, and they were on their way. The thrill of the launch filled them with exhilaration. In an epic blaze of glory and slight chaos, they found themselves zooming through the sky, faster than a jackass on a mission. The wind whipped past them, and the stars seemed to beckon them onward. Chapter 3. The wobbling woes of weightlessness. As they soared higher and higher, they suddenly experienced something neither of them had planned for. Zero gravity. The sensation was both thrilling and disorienting. As the rocket reached its cruising altitude, things took a hilarious turn. They found themselves floating weightlessly, their limbs flailing as they tried to navigate the cabin. "Whoa, I feel like a flying jelly bean," Jack squeaked as he accidentally floated into Carl's snack compartment. The sensation of weightlessness was unlike anything he had ever experienced. "Get out of my cupcakes!" Carl shouted, flapping his legs in an attempt to swim through the weightless cabin. He was determined to protect his precious snacks, even in zero gravity. Cupcakes, sandwiches, and a plethora of healthy snacks became stealth projectiles in their zero-gravity rocket. The cabin was a chaotic mess of floating food and flailing limbs. They batted them at each other with giggles until finally they found a way to strap themselves in, albeit using some electrical tape Carl had found stuck to the wall. It wasn't the most elegant solution, but it worked. "Next time, we're definitely packing more snacks," Carl said, licking frosting off his cheek. "Do you think aliens like cupcakes?" He was already planning their next culinary adventure. Jack shrugged, staring out at the wonders of space. "Let's worry about that after we actually get to Uranus." The vastness of the cosmos filled him with awe and wonder. Chapter 4. A Bizarre Encounter. As they approached their destination, the sensors on their rocket began to beep frantically. The sudden noise jolted them out of their reverie. "What does that mean?" Carl asked, gripping his seat nervously. He had a sinking feeling that something was about to go wrong. "Probably just the low battery light," Jack guessed, although he really had no idea what he was talking about. He tried to sound confident, but his uncertainty was evident. Suddenly, out of nowhere, an alien spaceship appeared in front of them. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, and it filled them with a mix of fear and excitement. It was shaped like a giant donut with flashing lights and was hovering suspiciously as if it were executing a particularly hard dance move. There's no way they could have prepared for this, Jack thought, his mind racing with possibilities. Credits, written by author name, narrated by narrator name.